Ryer from SEOTrainingSW.com, and I'd like to invite everybody to this evening's webinar with David McBee, The Power of Infographics. I became familiar with David and his company back in 2005 when I owned and managed the Radar Busters network. We were using many of David's services, promoting our website. He didn't have the infographics at that time. I wish he did, because we really came up with some great ideas. But we're going to be doing something similar with radardetector.org. But he's really going to share. He really has an arsenal, I guess you could say. It's a really great word. Some really great link building ideas, and he's going to share with some of those with us tonight. David also writes a educational blog for internet marketers. If you go to our webpage here on the Power of Infographics, if you're watching this on our website, the replay, just click right here on this link about the speaker. Let's translate the making sense out of internet gobbledygook, and you can go right to David's website. And again, David specializes in link building and also off-site SEO strategies like infographics. Before we get started, though, a few things I do want to bring up. This is going to be recorded, so we will have a replay on our website. It typically takes about 5 or 7 days to have the replay up. We have to do some editing and some other tweaking of the video so we can have it play right. Next week, a week from tonight, we're going to have a webinar at 201 plus link building strategies. That's going to be on October 10th at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And we're going to share with you a number of link building strategies out of this brand new ebook we wrote. And during the webinar, we'll be giving away 2 copies of this ebook to 2 of the best questions. Also tonight, we're going to have some fun. I know tonight President Obama and has the debates going on with Romney. And there's many of you that are might want to go out and watch that, but we're going to try to keep you here. You can watch that later on, because what we're going to do is we're going to give away a free video from our Google Penguin workshop. That's going to be 4 hours of video training going over Google Penguin, and we're also going to give you 1 free hour of one-on-one SEO consulting. So if you want to learn a little bit more information about the Google Penguin video training or any of the other video training programs that we offer, the paid training programs, please visit our website right here, SEO Training to Go. And I do want to also mention that we just completed our schedule for 2013, our workshop schedule. On January 25th, we're going to have a half-day workshop on PR in a Jar. Public relations expert and author Amanda Vega is going to be out here. She wrote the book PR in a Jar. She'll be giving a 4-hour presentation on how to do PR for your website. It's going to be very, very interesting, on how to do that, some tips and how to do that, how to write press releases, media contacts and things like that. Then the same day in the afternoon, we're going to have a 4-hour intensive workshop on online reputation management. Guys, if you're doing SEO for clients, there's a ton of money to be made in online reputation. So, if you want some more information about that workshop, just click there. And then on the 26th, we're going to have an intensive 1-day workshop with social media strategist Bruce Safran. Bruce is out from LA. He's now one of our associates with SEO Training and the SEO Roadmap. He's going to come out and really give a hands-on 1-day intensive on Facebook marketing. Then in March, we're going to have our SEO Essentials Workshop. That's our 2-day workshop. Local Search Workshop. That's a 1-day workshop that focuses specifically on local search. Then at the end of March, we're going to have our advanced 3-day workshop. So if you want some more information about our in-person workshops, just go to our website and click right here, SEO Workshops, and you'll see those listed out. And again, I want to thank you, David, for being a part of tonight's webinar. This is the second webinar that we've done with David, and I know we're going to be doing many more. I mean, David's an exceptional speaker. He also has quite a bit of knowledge, and I really encourage you guys, to follow David and listen to what David has to say tonight. David, are you ready? I'll turn over the presentation to you. And David, During this
Yep.
presentation, when we get into the question and answer period, I just ask you one favor to kind of make some notes who you think is the ask you the best question. And guys, during this class, if you could just in that little question box, just type in your questions during David's presentation. At the end of the presentation, we'll go through any and all questions that you do have. David, again, thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Can you see my screen all right?
I see it perfectly, my friend. Thank you.
All right. So you see the presentation. I've got it on the right screen. I'm not showing you my desktop. Just wanted to be sure. All right. Okay. Well, here are the things that we are going to tackle tonight. We're going to talk about infographics. I'm crazy passionate about infographics. I think they're awesome. So we're going to talk about how they can actually drive traffic to your website, improve your rankings, and get those social media metrics really going. What's so great about these infographics? Why are they effective? Where you can find them? I want you to start brainstorming about an infographic for your own business. So I'm going to tell you the 3 rules for creating a great infographic. And then we're going to talk about how to really get that infographic out there and distribute it, get backlinks to it, promote it through the social channels, and so on. So I will just get right to it. All right, first of all, let's just touch real quickly on what an infographic is. You probably already know, or you wouldn't be participating in this call, but an infographic is something like this. It's image rich, it's content rich, but it's a great way of displaying information, details, telling a story through images. Something just like this. This is the why you need an infographic. But let's talk about why would we even want to do that. There's really 3 goals of every infographic. And they're kind of the main goals that we all go after online with just about anything. And that is to drive traffic to your site, to get backlinks for your site, and then to get that social love, those social signals also to your site. So do infographics actually drive traffic to your site? Let's take a look. This is an infographic about infographics. It's called the Return on Infographics. It's about return on investment with infographics. And what BitRebels did was they took a look at some of the most popular infographics online and looked at some of the traffic sources and how much traffic they got. As you can see, this first one here, how to create green moss wall graffiti. That infographic got over 100,000 page views, visits, just from an infographic. How many people would like to claim that just about their website? This one here got Geeks versus Nerds, actually got 20,000 visits from Facebook. UPS versus FedEx got almost 20,000 visits, and so on and so on. Even size comparison of famous sci-fi spaceships got almost 9,000 views from its presence on StumbleUpon. So don't get distracted and go Google those to see what they look like. Wait till after the presentation. This right here is just a quick look at a site's analytics. This site actually posted an infographic on July 23rd of this year. And as you can see, it doubled, tripled, quadrupled the amount of traffic that the site was getting simply from posting that infographic. Now I can tell you that that traffic didn't stay super high for a long, long time, but it definitely did increase for a while once that infographic went up. And it was a really good surge for traffic on the site. Got a lot of new visitors and a lot of new subscribers. So absolutely, the infographic can bring visitors, bring traffic to your site. But what about link juice and backlinks? Now before I jump into that, let's talk about why that's valuable. Just in case you're not super familiar with backlinks, a backlink is when someone else puts a link to your site on their site. And the reason this is valuable is because Google sees those links as votes of confidence for your site. And the site that has the most high-quality, relevant links from other sites that are also relevant can actually outrank its competitors. So you want those backlinks. You probably already know that, but just to be sure, these backlinks are super, super important for helping you rank better. So if you've created something awesome like an infographic, you can actually get people to drive some links to you. Now let's take a look at an example. This is a pretty cool infographic. It's nice and simple, but it's kind of fun. It is top 20 most expensive keywords in Google AdWords advertising. As you can see, insurance is the most expensive keyword. It's like $54. Loans is here at $44, and so on. Now, I have to ask you, if a person had just listed the top 20 keywords in a blog article or maybe in a spreadsheet, do you think it would have gotten much action? Do you think people would have been that drawn to it? In this case, because it's colorful and fun and laid out in an interesting manner, this infographic got over 360 sites linking to it. It has over 1,100 total links, just the infographic itself. I'm not even talking about the website, but the page of the site that has the infographic has that much link authority and that many backlinks. That's a fantastic, fantastic metric. When Google sees that, they really see this as an authority on that particular subject. And then this is a infographic that's near and dear to my heart because I'm a big superhero geek. But this is an infographic put together by a site called Color Palettes, or colorlovers.com, and they look at the color palettes of superheroes. You know, they've got the red, white, and blue of Wonder Woman, Captain America, and Spider-Man. They've got the black or the yellow and blue of X-Men. They've got the green of the Hulk and the Green Lantern. It's just kind of a fun infographic that looks at colors. Well, that infographic was taken and repurposed and posted on site after site after site after site. This is just a quick glance at all the different sites that posted that. You've got boingboing.net, you've got buzzfeed.com, twyla.com, comicsalliance.com, njuice.com. All these sites took that infographic and put it on their site because they thought it was fantastic. And most of them include a backlink back to the original colorlovers.com site, and that's why this is #1. So just a quick peek at that infographic. I just think it's absolutely fun and clever and interesting, and it's no wonder people took this and shared it and put it on their blogs. It's fantastic. But speaking of sharing, let's talk about the social love that goes along with an infographic as well. Take a peek at this one. It's an infographic called 20 Reasons to Switch to Google+. Now, an infographic like this got thousands of Facebook likes and Twitter tweets and +1s, and it's all over LinkedIn and Pinterest and StumbleUpon, because when people saw this, 20 Reasons to Switch to Google, and it's colorful and it's interesting and it's fun, they wanted to share it. They wanted to make sure that their networks and their followers also saw this. Now, this isn't me saying one thing or another about switching to Google+, but a lot of people thought this infographic was worth looking at and worth sharing at. Look at this, 4,700 likes, 3,000 tweets, 4,000 +1s. Now, if you're Google Spider and you come along and look at this infographic and you see all this social activity, and it probably has a bunch of backlinks as well, that's going to be very impressive. That is going to show an authority on this particular subject. And remember this infographic, 20 Reasons to Switch to Google+, because I'm going to come back to that here in a little bit and show you something interesting. Okay, so why are these infographics so effective? It's because people are visual learners. People like to see stuff. The brain processes information faster than it does words. You think about it, you look at an article, you might read the first 2, 3, 4 sentences, you get a little ADD, you get a little bored, you just move on. But an infographic, those images, they draw you in, they make you, they keep you entertained, they keep you engaged. Think about when you read a magazine. You're flipping through that magazine, you're looking at the pictures, and it's the pictures that make you stop and read the articles. Now, there's a couple of quotes here that I'm just going to read word from word because I think they're pretty terrific. Infographics are popular because they draw you in with visual contrast, a dance of structure and art, and reward you with raw facts. Data is emerging as the judge of opinion, and people want to see it for themselves and like the idea of thinking on vast amounts of historical measurements in an efficient, accessible way. The popularity of infographics lies in the weakness of articles. People in general are really bad at written comprehension, and they have short attention spans. I mean, think about it. Everybody on the web has ADD. We're just moving so quickly. We're reading our Twitter feed. If something doesn't catch our attention or keep us really engaged, it's boom, move on to something else. There's plenty out there to go look at and read. And if you aren't engaging me, I got other things to do. I've got other things to read. So you've got to keep their attention. You've got to keep it simple. So where do we find these infographics? Well, they're all over the place. They're on search engines, of course, the social sites, blogs, and emails. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Now, this is a screenshot of a search for reasons to switch to Google+. And PC World wrote a great article about the reasons they think you should switch to Google+. But look at the next three results. All three of those results are that infographic that I showed you earlier. And they're on three different sites. They're on Mashable, DroidLife, and BitRebels. They're all three that result. So ask yourself this question. What are my potential clients? What are my prospects asking? What are they typing in the Google search box that I can answer with an infographic? Because there's a very good chance that if your infographic goes viral, if you get those backlinks, you get that social love, your infographic could rank as the result of that query. So give that some thought. Now, you're also going to see infographics on Facebook. Now, this is an actual shot from my Facebook wall of the Summit Betchel Family National Scout Reserve, and it's a new Scout Reserve. And I follow them on Facebook because my son's a Scout, I'm a Scouter, my wife's a Scouter. And this is very interesting. They're talking about the 2013 Jamboree and all the great things that you can do on the lake, be it canoeing or swimming or whatever that might be, fishing. And when I saw this infographic, it had been live for about an hour. And at that point, it already had 349 thumbs up likes. It had 26 comments, and 71 people had shared that infographic with their friends on their Facebook walls. So it has that great potential to totally get out there and get in front of more people. I'm going to go back and ask you that same question that I keep asking. If this had been just a post by the Summit Betchel Family National Scout Reserve, and the post had said, these are the fun things that you can do at the lake, and they listed canoeing and fishing and whatever else is on this infographic, do you think it would have gotten so much action? Do you think it would have gotten so much activity? Absolutely not. The fact that this is colorful and visual and interesting, that's what made it so possible and encouraged people to share it. So fantastic use of an infographic on Facebook. But you're also going to find infographics on Twitter. Now, this screenshot, of course, is a search for the word infographic, and of course those are going to be my results. But I can tell you right now, as I look at my Twitter feed, infographics are often one of the things that people tweet a lot of. You'll get infographics about the Android versus the iPhone 5, or you'll get infographics about your favorite sports team and what's going on with the playoffs or whatever that might be. So be on the lookout for infographics in your Twitter feed, and if you've got a great infographic, you want folks tweeting it out to their followers. It's just a great way to get that infographic in front of more people. Now, Pinterest, of course, lends itself to being perfect for infographics because it's a visual social network. It's all about the images. So if you've got great content that is supported by images, it belongs on Pinterest. And as you can see, this is the infographic page for Mashable, and they have 42,000 followers. So clearly there's some level of interest in these infographics. The other thing that happens with infographics a lot is people use them on their blogs. All right, so this is the SEO Moz blog, and this author wrote an article called Blog Design for Killer SEO. But rather than just write an article, he chose to support his article and his comments with an infographic. Now, I'm sorry I don't show you the whole thing here, but as you can imagine, that goes on, and as you scroll down, there's a whole lot to that infographic. But it supports his article. It supports the message that he's trying to tell. And by having that infographic in his article, it makes his article that much more compelling and that much more interesting. This one had 125 likes at the time that I captured the screenshot. So we know that's great. There are also infographic blogs, and that's just a blog that's full of infographics. And those are fine too. That's a good place to put your infographic. I would say it's not as compelling as a relevant blog article, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with making sure that these infographic sites have your blog or your infographic as well. Now, this is a site called Daily Statistics, and every single day they post something about statistics. Yeah, you couldn't have guessed that, right? But as infographics have gotten more and more popular, it turns out that infographics are what they're constantly posting, because infographics are full of statistics and knowledge and data. So another great place for your infographic to be. Okay, so let's talk about creating this infographic. Maybe I've inspired you. Maybe now you're going, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand why infographics are so cool. I want those backlinks. I want those social shares. What do I do? Well, you want to tell a story. You want to communicate complex data simply, and you want to make your infographic shareable. Let's go through those. Tell the story. Use visual representation of your data. All right? Make sure that it's organized and linear. Don't just throw a bunch of stuff together like statistics and pie charts. Now, here's a good example. This infographic speaks to new landlords. It's about some of the things that new landlords need to know before they rent their house. And you can see right here it talks about how home prices have plummeted, in the last few years, but rent has actually gone up. So now's a great time to rent your home. It's just a quote here from U.S. News and World Report that supports that same concept. So if you're thinking about renting your home, here are some of the things you need to do before you do that. You need to consult an attorney. You need to set rules and boundaries. You need to do your homework on the potential renters. Make sure you run a background check. Make sure you have a realistic budget. You're going to have to worry about when the house is empty or if there's maintenance or repair to be taken care of. Yes, you have to pay the mortgage, but you also have to pay insurance. And then, of course, figure out who's going to do the lawn, the landscaping, snow removal, and things like that. It's really just a simple set of ideas, but it's visualized just enough to make it a little more interesting than, like I said, a simple blog article or a spreadsheet that lists these topics. Now, here's what's really clever about that. This particular infographic was put together by a company called youcheckcredit.com. Guess what they do? Yes, they check credit of potential renters. Well, look at what's featured in this infographic. Do the homework on your potential renters. It's speaking specifically to the person who could actually use their service. So not only is this infographic going to get great backlinks and social shares, it's also kind of a marketing piece that says, hey, buy our product and service as well, which is, rental check. So very, very clever use of that. Communicate the data simply, all right? Just make sure that the data helps tell the story and it's not just gunking up the infographic. Now, I love the way the data speaks in this one right here. All right, now again, this isn't me talking negatively about Google+. I'm kind of a fan of Google+, believe it or not, but check this out, all right? When you look at this data right here, if this is the only data that you had available, you might think, well, gosh, Google+ is the #2 most important social network that I need to be a part of. Facebook has 900 billion people, right? And Google has 170 million. LinkedIn has less, and Twitter has even less. So maybe I ought to be playing on Google+. It's definitely, it's where everybody's at. And that's a great way to visualize the data if you're Google+. But if you look at the actual activity that's going on these social networks, if you look at the amount of shares of stories, you're going to see that Google+ is really a ghost town. It really is the lowest of all the social networks for sharing. Twitter has 197 shares per 100 million users. That's 33 times more than Google+. So looking at this data, and I love the way they have all the silhouettes and all the people. There's so much going on here on Twitter. It makes it look like an active, thriving social environment, which it is. But over here on Google+, there's like 6 people. Okay, so that tells another story by visualizing the data. And then if you look here at total shares through entertainment, health, general, business, technology, you'll see that every single time, Facebook and Twitter, they're huge. They're really big deals. And Google+ has a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of the pie. So Google+, if you look at the data like this, may or may not be the place where you want to spend most of your time. But that's a story for another time. This is really about how the data is laid out before us. So very, very clever how they did that. And then, of course, once you build that infographic, you're going to put it on your site, and you're going to want to make sure that it's really, really easy for people to share that on their social networks and put it on their blog. So what we're going to do are two things. These are really important. Number one is make sure that you have social share buttons with your infographic. Make sure that when somebody sees that infographic and they love it and they want to tweet it out to their 4 million users, all they got to do is click a button. They don't have to copy and paste the URL. They don't have to go to Twitter. It's nice and simple. Just click, tweet, and boom, that infographic's out there to the rest of the world. Make sure the share button is there for Facebook. You probably ought to have Pinterest on there as well, and then LinkedIn, and there's lots and lots of different share tools that will allow you to do that. So make sure you have a share feature next to your infographic. Another thing that you can do to make sure your infographic is shared is to have embed code on there. And embed code looks a little like this, and what it is, it's just a little snippet of HTML that allows somebody to say, oh, I really like this infographic about penny stocks. This would be really cool on my financial blog, or whatever your blog is about. And you can just copy and paste this exact embed code right into your blog, and boom, that infographic will appear on your blog. You don't have to copy it, you don't have to paste it, you don't have to upload it, you don't have to rename it, you don't have to do anything fancy except take this code, and it's really, really easy. It also gives the original person a nice clean backlink back to their site, and they can even choose the anchor text. In this case, they chose their business name, Penny Stocks 101, to be the anchor text. So fantastic use of embed code to make sure that as many people as possible who want to share this have the ability to do so in an easy, easy way. So once you've got that thing done, let's get started, or once you figure out what you want to do, let's get started on building it. And there's a few steps on getting to build it, and let's go into those. What do we need to do to get your infographic going? Well, we need to do some research. You need to figure out what is it about your topic that's educational or interesting, or I like controversial too, because controversial sometimes gets shared more than interesting or educational. Entertaining, if you can figure out a way to make your infographics fun, definitely that will encourage people to share it. Lay the data out in a manner that leads the reader to that conclusion or leads them to take action. In fact, let's take a look at an example that does that. All right, here is a publisher that sells a particular product. I'm going to show you what that product is here in just a minute. And that product didn't really lend itself to having a lot of facts and figures. And I hear people tell me that a lot. Like, well, I'm a roofer, or I lay concrete, or whatever it might be. What kind of data can I come up with? Well, you can. You actually can come up with something clever. This business owner came up with the top 10 backyard games of summer. All right, so what do we got here? We got washers, lawn darts. Be careful with those. I broke my grandmother's window with those when I was like 7, so be careful with that. I've got redneck golf here. I don't know if you've heard of that. Frisbee golf, of course. Kickball is a great backyard game. Horseshoes, croquet, the bocce ball, badminton, and then the #1 cornhole backyard game of summer is cornhole. All right, so you're looking at this infographic. Maybe you're a tailgater. Maybe you're having a 4th of July party. Maybe you are really into croquet and horseshoes and you've never heard of cornhole. But is there anything about this infographic that might lead you to say, what's cornhole all about? What is this? Oh, I've seen this. This is the beanbag toss game. Where do I go to get one of those? Can I build one of those? Are they cheap to buy? And you end up finding your way over to Cornhole Worldwide because of this infographic. Now, think about it. Think about what this business owner was challenged with. Create an infographic about cornhole games? I can't even start to think of interesting and fun statistics and data and research that might go along with that. But this clever, simple list of 10 backyard games really can get out there and get shared. This is something people might put on their Facebook during summer or share with somebody who's having an outdoor party. Just a really clever way to get that cornhole message out there. I really, really admire this one. So once you come up with your idea and your layout, obviously you're going to have to hire a graphic designer or a company that does infographic creation, unless, of course, you've got that skill set yourself, of course. Make sure that you use a variety of fonts, colors, images. That's kind of a no-brainer there. You need it to be interesting and colorful. Don't make it trashy. Don't overdo it. obviously some of the classic graphic rules that you would follow for anything else. Okay, so once your infographic is ready, pretty simple steps. You put it up on your website. You make sure that you have those share buttons in place. You make sure that you have the embed code up there, and then you share it on your social media networks. Now, if you're like me, you have a certain number of people who follow you or like your Facebook page or whatever that is, but that's going to be a limited number of folks. So what we really need to do is get out there and get that infographic going. It's like if you built a second location for your business, you've got to do the marketing for that second location. And we want to undergo a marketing effort to make the most of this infographic. So what we do is we do a little webmaster outreach. We reach out to those websites that might find our infographic valuable. They might like to post our infographic. Let's say we're a dentist and we just created a great infographic about the sugar content of Gatorade and apple juice and soda, and the whole concept is about you're keeping your children's teeth healthy. Who would want to post that infographic? Other dentists? Well, yes, if they're not local to that same area, if they're not in Phoenix where you are and you are not their competition, yeah, they might want to post that infographic over on their site in Canada or California or New York. That's a great way to get some links. But you really don't need dentists. You need sites that are related to health or nutrition or even children. A lot of mommy blogs would probably love an infographic like that, right? They would take that infographic in a heartbeat and put that up. They're hungry for content. So if you can give them something cool, like an infographic about sugar content and protecting your kids' teeth, that's something that they're going to want. So you reach out to them, you email them, you call them, you do whatever you can to promote that infographic, get it up on their sites, and have them give you that all valuable backlink back to your own site. I encourage you to be very cautious with this step. Don't go putting your infographic on websites that don't make sense for it. The dentist infographic doesn't need to be on the casino site. It certainly doesn't need to be on the Chicago Cubs fan site. Make sure that there is some relevancy there and that it makes sense. And that's true of any link building that you do, of course. And then there are ways that you can engage with social media influencers, right? So people who have influence in the space. They've got lots of Twitter followers, or they have a big fan base on Facebook, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, I've put together this terrific infographic. I think your fans would be a fan of this infographic. Would you please share it? Would you tweet it? Would you post it up on your Facebook wall? I mean, literally, you want to create great content, and you want to hope that people will find this content and share it. But if you take action on it, if you literally go out there and push it yourself, you'll get 10, 15, 100 times further than if you just put it out there and cross your fingers. So that's my recommendation for getting that infographic to get out there and go viral. So what are your next steps? All right, so maybe I've encouraged you. You're thinking, okay, this is something that I could do. I could do an infographic for my company. What's my next step, David? How do I go about that? Well, first of all, you create the infographic. And if you've got the ability to do that, go for it. Have some fun. Build it yourself. I encourage that. If you're not an artistic person, if you're not a graphic designer, if you're not able to do that research yourself, SEO Roadmap and SEO Training, SW.com is going to have the ability to provide an infographic for you, soup to nuts, ideas, creation, research, data, everything, starting at $1,500, and that's what most of the infographics will run, is about $1,500. If that seems like a lot, that is kind of the going rate. I encourage you to go out there and look for other infographic companies. Be sure and ask them about previous work that they've done, but I think that you'll see $1,500 is pretty much the starting rate for most quality infographics. I've seen them as high as $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000, depending on the concept and the amount of data involved. But once you've created that, that's really just the first step. As you know, we need to distribute that infographic. And of course, I encourage you, go out and find those highly relevant sites to post your infographic. But SEO Training and SEO Roadmap offers the ability for our team to go out and do this for you. We can actually find you industry relevant sites with decent page rank, with that are related to your topic, and we can guarantee 5 to 10 of those sites will post your infographic with do follow links for only $500. We even have 20 to 30 package. It goes on. It's right here. You can see what's available. But this is something that we can do. We can take that infographic and we can run with it. We can go build those links to it. And this is something you can do once, or it's something you can do every month, or it's something you can do every 6 months. You get the infographic out there, it gets this initial buzz, this initial surge, and it's great, it's exciting. 6 months later, people have kind of forgotten about it. You can get it out in front of a whole new audience and do this again. It's a great way to build links and get some more buzz going. And then, of course, there's the social promotion. And SEO training has those relationships with top influencers. We actually have the ability to get out there and get you 1,000 pluses and likes and tweets and from real live people that are, these are influencers. They have followings and they do their thing. They do the magic that they do. I can't even believe I said magic. That's an old SEO strategy, right? It was, it's magic. But it's really, truly, it's almost like magic, the way that they are able to help promote your products and services through their social networks. So we have those relationships in place, and we can get those social signals attached to your infographic. And I believe that's it. It actually is. That's my story. That's why I'm so passionate about infographics, and that's why I think everybody should truly give them a look and consider them as a strategy for their business.
Hey, David,
Roy?
thank you. David, thank you. Outstanding webinar here that we got. And I'm really excited now. Also, we get a chance to, basically take some questions from our participants here this evening. Let me put this out over here. All right, guys. We have a number of questions that have already come in. If you do have a question, please type in. Then there's a little box there that you can type in your questions. And remember, the person who asked the best question this evening, and that David's going to select them, is going to win a free Penguin video training. That's from our workshop that we had here just a little over 4 weeks ago. This is valued at $97. And you'll also get an opportunity. You'll also get, 1 free hour of SEO consulting. Whatever you want to talk about. If it's not Penguin specific, you'll get that 1 hour with me. And also something else. I'm looking at the number. We have quite a few callers on the online tonight, and I'm looking at them. Many of the people I know. I'm just going to call you out by first name. Claudia. Claudia has a sewing website, and David, her niche is, teaching people on teaching. I'm not gonna get very gender specific. I'm just gonna leave it at people. Teaching people that want to learn how to sew. Any ideas off the top of your head as far as an infographic on that particular niche, David?
Well, I'll tell you what. Whenever somebody asks me that question, I always ask a question back, and that is, who is your target market? Mm-hmm. I'm going to make some assumptions here that it's ladies who want to learn to sew. Maybe it's young girls learning how to sew, or maybe it's older ladies who are looking for a new hobby. I hope that doesn't sound sexist, but my mother's a big sewer, and so that's the kind of the category I'm thinking of. And the question is, what interests them, right? You want to speak to them. You want to find something that's interesting to your target market. So because I don't know very much about sewing, the question would be, all right, what is it that they like? Is it different kinds of sewing machines and the value of the different sewing machines? Or like, what are the top 3 sewing machines and why are they so expensive? Or maybe it's something to do with threads and fabrics and needles. And again, I don't know the topic well enough to just come up with something amazing and clever off the top of my head, but that's how you get to the idea, right? You ask yourself, what interests them? What are they talking about?
And David, I'm glad you brought that up. Because
so if you've written...
Okay, David, I'm glad you brought
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that subject back, because that's exactly what my presentation is going to be at PubCon here in 2 weeks. And it's basically identifying your perfect customer. Guys, you need to think you only have one perfect customer. Claudia, think, visualize that person in your mind. Who exactly are they? Um, and what are their most pressing problems? What are their most pressing questions? And, come out with an infographic on that. And I also see we have Linda on the call tonight, and Linda manages a website that focuses on dried flowers. And one thing that I know, knowing her and working with her in her niche, Christmas is just around the corner, and one of their best-selling products is mistletoe. And maybe come up with an infographics about kissing under the mistletoe or something like that. Make it fun. Um, you know, just something. Also think about the power of the social share where you make something fun, interesting. Think of your perfect customer in developing your infographic and encouraging them to share this. And just off the top of my head, I know it sounds like a crazy idea, but maybe 10 tips on kissing under the mistletoe. David, any thoughts on that?
How about the history of mistletoe and why do we kiss under it?
Hey, there you go.
Things like I would love to know that, to be honest with you. And maybe and you can even take that to the next level. It's like 10 Christmas traditions that you follow and didn't even know why. Why is it a turkey? Or that's Thanksgiving, but you know what I mean? Why do we hang the stockings? Why do we do this? It's a little bit of a leap from dried flowers, right? But you can get your message in there about dried flowers. And frankly, dried flowers, that could be anybody, right? Another idea for that would be to really take the whole concept that Pinterest has done and put together, the top 20 things to do with dried flowers. I mean, that's nice and simple. And you could show images of the actual products that you sell. You could show images of things people have created with the dried flowers. That probably wouldn't interest me very much, but you get that in front of my crafty wife or your mom or my mom, and that would just be fantastic. They would eat that up. And then, of course, at the end it says infographic presented by, insert dried flower company's name and logo here. And now people know where to go to get those dried flowers as well. So, yeah, I mean, even something as simple as dried flowers, you could come up with some really clever stuff.
Okay, now we got a handful of questions. Please, guys, type in your questions. You have David, who's an expert in infographics. Seldom do you get an opportunity to have somebody as David's caliber on a call. So, type in your questions and try to, challenge David. David, our first question is from Kim. Are there any particular demographics that are out there that prefer infographics over, who would be the perfect customer, I guess, or the perfect demographics for infographics? Is there one?
Well, I think that yes, there is. I can't prove this, and this is a bit of a gut instinct answer for you, but I think it's that same person who has embraced social media, because that's really who we're trying to get in front of. If your ideal client is not plugged into Twitter or Facebook or places where these infographics exist, then maybe this isn't a good strategy for you. But if your client looks at Facebook, and we know there's 900 gazillion billion people who do that, then they're probably a good candidate. I don't know that there's a specific age group or demographic that would be better for infographics than another, because I think it's really about social media. I think it's anyone who participates in social media, participates in blogs and shares and tweets and things like that. We can get the infographics in front of them, then they're probably a good clientele.
Okay. This is a question from Stephen K. And David, I hope you're writing down these people's names so we can pick the winner tonight. Stephen K's question is,
I am.
How can I make sure that people who share my infographic use my link and don't steal it for their own website? Any thoughts about that?
Okay. I kind of love that question. And the answer is you can't. You absolutely can't. But it's okay if the occasional person, or even if 20% of the people who share your infographic just take it, steal it, put it on their blog, and don't give you credit for it. Because you're going to have some pretty fantastic branding somewhere on that infographic. Now, if you don't get the link, or if you don't get the share the way you wanted it, and again, having that embed code and the share buttons on your site will make it easier for you. But if they just take it and put it on their site, you're still going to have that branding somewhere on there, and that can potentially lead someone back to you, back to your website, back to where you want them to end up. It's not the end of the world. A lot of people will ask me about duplicate content, and if that's an issue, I haven't found that to be the case at all with infographics. But I will tell you this. The minute that you put an infographic up on your site, be sure to hop on over to Google Plus and put some kind of link back to that infographic so that you are, so it indicates to Google that you are the owner and the originator of that infographic. That way, if it ends up on somebody else's site and maybe they get more likes on it, maybe they get more tweets on it than you for some reason, maybe they get more pluses or whatever, we don't want them outranking you for your own infographic. And one of the ways to keep that from happening is to make sure you go tell Google Plus right away, hey, I'm the originator of this infographic. It's mine, and I want you to crawl my site. And that's true for blog articles or really anything that you do. That's a little extra advice for you. Always, always post your new content to Google Plus so that you are given the credit as the original author for it. Again, having that branding on there is really what's going to bring it back. Think about that example of either the cornhole guy or the rental one. There's lots of sites out there that talk about mortgages and renting property. They might take that infographic and put it up on their sites. But when you get down to the bottom of that infographic and it says presented to you by youcheckcredit.com, even if it doesn't link back, that's still another way that youcheckcredit.com got their message in front of potential clients. So be sure and brand it real good.
Okay. And we have two questions from Roger, then two questions from Catherine. Roger's first question is, what size should you use to create your graphic, and what are the technical aspects of producing it?
That's a pretty good question. I would say that you want to keep it under 600 pixels wide, just because that's kind of the average width of most blogs, and it can usually be seen and really, really renders well at that width. As far as height goes, I don't think it matters. I think that's a lot of that is going to depend on your own personal, how much data you have, how much of a story you have to tell. And that's not a hard rule either. I mean, it doesn't have to be tall and long. It can be wide. It can be screen size. But if it's made to fit most blogs, which again is around 600 pixels wide or thereabouts, 550, whatever, if it's made to fit there, then it'll be easier for folks to share. It needs to be a simple JPEG or TIFF or GIF file. It needs to be clean enough and good enough to render clean and not be fuzzy, but you also don't want the file to be so gigantic that it slows down load times and things like that.
Okay.
So, best advice is just go find other great infographics and kind of mimic what they've done.
Okay, and
whose question was that?
That was Roger Matthews, and Roger has a second question for you. And Roger's second question is, could you make a single infographic retain ownership and then use that part of your service and brand with multiple businesses and sell it over multiple times? Or would you run into problems with duplicate content?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I'm not sure I followed it.
Yeah, this one's a little difficult to understand, but I'll read it over again. Basically, can you make an infographic, one infographic, David, and use that as part of the services that you do with your brand on that, and then share it with multiple businesses or brand it with other businesses, and then sell this to other businesses multiple times over? So I would make an infographic, brand it with mine, and perhaps then sell this same infographic to other websites who would reuse it on their websites. Would this be a problem, perhaps, with duplicate content? And I think you answered that kind of earlier, but just it's just kind of a different spin on it.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a problem with duplicate content. I don't think Google is really causing any kind of problems with or seeing problems with images being repeated. Images get shared and copied all over the web, right? You see those same silly bald white guys. I'm not talking about myself, but the little stick figures. You see them all over the place, and they're repeated. I don't think those are causing anyone any trouble, and I don't think it would cause any SEO problems.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I see is that when you resell that infographic, or you have people in the same niche reusing that infographic, and that infographic starts showing up, it's like, oh, I've already seen this infographic, and it was presented by somebody else. Oh, they just copied it, and I'm not sure that would lead to the right message that you're trying. You really want something original, something creative of your own, I think. If I'm misunderstanding that question, I'm happy
I
to
think you
chat
hit
with
it.
you offline about it.
I think you nailed it right on the head. We have two questions from
Okay.
Catherine. Catherine, she's in the MRI industry, and she wants to make it fun for the MRI industry. MRI is boring. I know I got one scheduled for next week. It scares me to death being slid into one of those tubes and listening to all that racket out there. But she wants to make it fun for the traditional medical community, kind of the staunchy people, she calls them. She already has a paper MRI model, um, and basically what she's asking, can she wants to put something together where the customer would print this out and then have the kids cut out or have people cut out their kids and put this together and just kind of make it an interactive kind of deal where she would print this out and then instruct parents, hey, share this with your kids, cut out the kids and slide them into the MRI. Have you ever had anything basically interactive like that, where you're asking your audience to maybe cut something out or color something or make a pinwheel? You understand what I'm saying, I think.
I gotta admit I haven't, but I love that. I think that's very clever. I'm not sure that that doesn't really serve the same goals as some of the infographics we've talked about. That's not something that people would want to, well, maybe it is something people would want to share. Other MRI companies would maybe borrow that and put it on their sites and share that with their patients, but I'm not sure it would get the kind of viral success that we're trying to get with these others. Maybe I wouldn't discourage it. I'd love to explore that and kind of have some fun with it. I can see if I were going into an MRI and you emailed me this infographic that I needed to cut out and put my pictures of my kids in and stuff, that would be kind of clever, and that's a great strategy. But you also might do something like top 10 things not to do while you're in an MRI. Number 10, don't try to drink tea. Or number 9, don't check your iPhone. I don't know. There are other things you could do that might be kind of fun that would potentially get shared more. Again, unless I knew that you were going to go get an MRI, I might not want to share that particular infographic on your Facebook wall or tweet it out. But again, I don't want to discourage that. I think you're thinking outside of the box. You're thinking outside of the MRI, and it's clever. I like the idea.
The only concern I would have is to think of your customer if they printed that out, because I think, Catherine, that's the goal. You would want them to print this out, so your infographic would have to be on a standard size piece of paper. You would probably want them to make sure they have a color printer. And I'm thinking of this more like I'm trying to think of or I'm going to mispronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But the Japanese thing where you fold up pieces of paper and make things out of it, maybe it could be a fold up of an MRI or something and make it fun like that. That's what my thoughts were. But just remember, what the people are going to be doing with that. Oh, by the way, the MRI paper model is already patented by somebody, so that takes care of that. I just got that message. Now, this is a question from Linda. Linda manages the dried flowers website we spoke about earlier, and Linda's asking, can they create a PDF? David?
You certainly can, of course, create a PDF, but it's not going to render or be shareable like a regular JPEG. PDF would be more almost like a white paper that people could download. And PDFs are crawlable, so there is some benefit there. There's no reason for you not to do a PDF, but I would do it in addition to the standard infographic strategy and format.
Okay. Linda, I would just try to keep it simple. Try to keep it, you can make it, design it in Photoshop, and then just convert it into a GIF or a JPEG and make it a little bit more friendly. Because you want to have this show, if you're going to be doing this on Facebook and stuff like that, it'd just be a lot easier and promote a lot easier, I think. This question is from Paul Smith. Paul asks, in order to dominate a niche, is it beneficial to develop a series of infographics with at least one infographic for each level in a vertical? An example would be one for each type of suppliers and one for each sub-niche of a customer. So he's talking about building this out into different kind of niches, I'm assuming, with different levels. David?
I would say yes, absolutely. Infographics are really hot right now. They're so great for traffic and links and of course the social signals, that if you can get a series of them going, if you can get some momentum behind them, like people are looking forward to your next infographic, all the better. The example that I shared with you guys earlier from the Boy Scout reservation, that was one of many that they do. The 2013 Jamboree is coming up, and the one I showed you was just about the lake activities. But they also have one about the animals that you'll see on the reservation. They also have one about the other activities that are available, whether it's hiking or tying knots or whatever it might be. So I love that idea of a series of infographics. It can be an ongoing strategy. It could be your link building strategy for 6 months or a year. I mean, it's just a great way to get, Google says create great content and the rest will fall into place, right? They say be awesome and people will just automatically link to you. Well, they kind of live in a fairy tale world because we know that doesn't happen. People will link to you if you're awesome, but they kind of expect something in return, people are getting stingy with their links. But if you create this great, amazing, fun infographic or series of infographics as you're talking about, and they're worth sharing, Google's going to reward that. They're going to see that you're actively doing exactly what they say to do, which is be awesome and create awesome content. So if you can do an infographic, great. If you can do an infographic a month, even better. If you just make this an ongoing strategy, I just think it would be fantastic.
Okay, David, that's our last question, and we only ran about 5 minutes over. David, can you go through that list of questions that you have and tell me who our winner tonight is?
Yes, I was a big fan of that last question. I really did like that one, but I think Stephen K's question about how to make sure that no one steals your infographic was probably my favorite. So I'm gonna say Stephen K's the guy.
Okay, Stephen, if you could email me direct. I got your email anyway, but anyway, Stephen, if you don't get my email, email me direct. My direct email is roy@seotrainingsw.com, and I'll be contacting you after this webinar.